Hi, I'm Movie Man. I'm an octopus who reviews movies, and today's review is going to be on I obviously knew this movie was coming out. I mean, this movie did look very interesting to me, with kind of the whole idea behind it. Now I also know this movie has two directors. One of them is Alex Garland, who I'm a very big fan of. He has directed a lot of very good movies in the past, like Ex Machina, Annihilation, Man, and of course, his previous movie that he directed last year's Civil War, which, if you'll remember my review, I really liked that movie. And I actually did rewatch it a few days before seeing this film, and yeah, on rewatch, I still think it's a really good movie. As well as being a great director, he's a great writer as well. He was a writer for both of the 28 movies, and he is writing the one that's coming out there in June. But of course, he was also the writer for my all-time favorite movie, Sunshine. So, generally, I do get a bit, excited whenever I see he has, a new project coming up. But then we have the film's other director, being Ray Mendoza, with this technically being his directorial debut, I'm pretty sure. He is a war veteran who fought in the Iraq War in 2006. He's basically gone and co-directed this movie along with Garland, as this movie's kind of based off of an experience that he has during the Iraq War in November of 2006, which, at the time that the events in this movie take place, I was only 2 months old. So this movie definitely looks very interesting to me, and so the day I'm recording this review, by the way, is April 24th. I went to see this movie, for myself about 3 days ago now, because it came out there in Ireland nearly a week ago now. So a few days ago, I went to see the movie for myself, and having seen Warfare for myself now, what did I think of it? Me personally, I really liked this movie. I have to say, this was a really good film, and yet another good one from Garland. And of course, since he actually did work on this one along with Ray Mendoza, but yeah, anyway, getting further into my thoughts on Warfare. No, not actual Warfare, but the movie itself. First off, the cinematography in this film, it's really good. This movie is distributed by A24, as are kind of most of the movies that Garland has directed. There is a bit of that A24 feel to it with the cinematography, but the movie does kind of go for something a bit different, with it being shot kind of like in the style, kind of like a general war film that you might watch, but there's there is that whole kind of A24 touch to it where, like, the movie kind of is, I do with kind of how the movie is shot, but I honestly think it's really good, and I think it really does work for the movie. Like, with a lot of these scenes set, like, during kind of the whole war and stuff, a lot of these shots are honestly pretty good, and, like, they actually do a good job of, like, kind of getting that whole feel of it, and there are plenty of really cool shots in this movie, like even some of the close-ups of some of the soldiers' faces, or even kind of some of the shots focusing like from a particular area or something. Overall, I do think it's a very well shot movie, and yeah, they do kind of try to do something a bit different when it compares to most A24 movies, but it still has that kind of feel to it. But honestly, I thought they did a very good job of, like, actually kind of getting you into the whole kind of scope of the war. So overall, I think the cinematography in the movie is very good. I will say the editing in the movie is actually very good as well, because, like, this is kind of a very, particular movie with the way that it's edited. Because, like, you'll have, like, all these different scenes that are kind of, like, edited in a particular way. Like, the movie does kind of cut a lot, kind of showing you different things happening. Like, there's a whole sequence where it's just kind of cutting back and forth kind of through these different scenes, like, with all the soldiers, and, like, kind of just showing what's happening and stuff. And I do honestly think it's a very well edited movie. Like, I like how they don't try to be all kind of real flashy with it and stuff. Like, they kind of do a good job of, like, actually, like, making it stand out a bit from most other war movies. And yeah, also I do think they did a solid job with it overall. So yeah, I would say the editing in the movie is very good. Now, in terms of the film's pace, now this movie isn't too long. Like, the movie has a runtime of 95 minutes, so it's not like too long a film, only around an hour and a half. And yeah, I honestly think that was a good runtime for the movie, because kind of with what happens in the movie, I don't think you really need, like, that long of a runtime to kind of, display everything happening. But I thought they did a solid job with the pace. Like, I will say, the movie actually does take a little while for it to actually start showing off a bunch of the war scenes, kind of start showing off a bunch of the soldiers fighting and stuff, because, like the good kind of first half of this movie, we're kind of just seeing, like, all these soldiers kind of, at, like, their base points, and they're kind of all just, kind of getting ready and stuff, and we are kind of waiting around for things to happen. But, like, I know I can definitely tell, like, a lot of audience members might get a bit bored of this. They might want to just actually start getting into the action of it all and stuff. But me personally, I think it actually works quite well. What's interesting is, of course, the previous movie that I reviewed, Sinners. If you saw my review for Sinners, which you should watch if you haven't already, I mentioned in that review how, like, the movie kind of takes its time actually getting to when, they set up the juke joint and there's the party going on. Because, like, it takes a good while to actually get to that because the movie kind of establishes who all the characters are, and that way you're able to actually care about the characters and what's going to happen to them. With this movie, it's actually the opposite. It does something similar with how it does kind of take a little bit to get to things. Not as long as Sinners did, because this movie's not as long as Sinners, but yeah, the movie kind of takes its time actually getting to the war. But with Sinners, it was because, like, they want you to actually care about the characters and stuff. With this movie, on the other hand, we're actually not really given much, like, distinct personalities for all of these characters, as we're kind of just seeing them waiting around and stuff, but I feel like that actually kind of works with the movie. I'll go more to it in a bit, but, like, if you're able to kind of get through these scenes, eventually all the stuff with the war kind of does kick off. And, like, I do think the movie is paced pretty well from there on out. Like, it's definitely not a very long movie. I honestly thought this movie went by kind of quickly enough, but it definitely doesn't go by kind of too quickly to where, like, you feel like the movie's kind of rushing through things. Like, the movie kind of really is just kind of just showing what's going on, showing kind of all the troubles that our characters are having to face and stuff. But I honestly thought that was quite well executed. So overall, I thought the pace in this movie was quite good. Now, in terms of the sound and music, like, there's actually not really that much music in the film. There's really, like, not that much of a score in this movie. Although, there is one song at the start of the film that they show in it. And I won't say the song or, like, kind of what happens in the scene. You have to actually watch the movie to understand what I'm talking about. But if you have seen the movie, then you do know what I'm talking about. And yeah, that scene is honestly quite different in tone compared to the rest of the movie, but it actually makes sense. But, like, what I'm mainly going to have to talk about in this section is the sound design, because I think pretty much most other reviewers have said it, but I'm going to have to say it as well. The sound work in this movie is really, really good, because, like, all the different sounds we hear, like, all these gunshots, these explosions, all these kind of war sound effects, yeah. They are honestly just really, really good, and, like, they do a good job of making it actually feel realistic, and you actually do genuinely kind of feel as if you could be there, like, with all, like, the sound work happening and stuff, yeah. Honestly, I do think it's very good sound work overall, yeah. I do have to give props to whoever, like, did the sound for this movie, because I have to say they did a very good job with it. Now, in terms of the characters and the acting, like, in terms of the characters, there's honestly not really that I actually have a whole lot to talk about in terms of the actual characters in the film. Because like, here's the thing, like there's a bunch of characters in this movie. Like the movie pretty much focuses on this whole like platoon of soldiers. And like the thing with them is they're honestly really not given like much characterization. And like I feel like that actually does work for the movie. Cause like the thing with this movie is that like all these characters, we don't get much to them because like I mean that we see in the movie, they themselves don't even really like interact with each other that much outside of like when they're actually fighting, because none of the characters ever try to get too close with each other, just in case the inevitable happens at any moment. And I do feel that works for the movie. I know this might be an issue to some that are not able to connect with the characters, but I honestly kind of feel like that's, the whole point to it and stuff. What I find interesting is that the film's co-director, Ray Mendoza, because of course this movie is actually based off of an experience he had when he was fighting in the Iraq War. He himself is actually a character in the movie, played by DeFaro woon-a-tai, that is his name, who does a solid enough job. There's not really like a whole lot that he actually does like in terms of his acting, but like I thought he did a solid job of feeling kind of like a believable soldier in this environment. And like all these other characters, these other soldiers and stuff, like there's really not a whole lot of characterization to any of them either. Cause like to be perfectly honest, there's not even really a central protagonist who we follow in the movie. Like, I suppose Ray is kinda the closest we get to it, but even then, like, we have all these other soldiers around him and stuff. Like, there's not exactly, a clear, full-on protagonist in this movie. Like, it's kind of just focusing on all these individual soldiers and stuff just during this thing happening. But like, I do think all the supporting cast did a solid job in terms of playing believable soldiers. Like, we do have some notable supporting names in the cast, like Will Poulter, Kit Connor, and kind of a few others as well. I think they all do pretty solid. We also have Charles Melton in the movie as well. I thought he did a really good job in his role. He's kind of like in charge of the platoon. I think he actually did a genuinely very good job. But two actors in this cast who I do want to mention are Joseph Quinn and Cosmo Jarvis. Because with both of their soldiers who they play in the movie, basically when this thing happens in the film, they end up getting injured, and for pretty much the rest of the movie, they have to play like really injured characters that's be on the ground screaming a lot. And I thought they did that really, really well. Like, both of these actors genuinely had me believing that, they actually were wounded and stuff. And it could be quite hard to watch at times. So overall, I will say, even though, like, there's not much to the characters, it actually does work for the movie, and the cast do solid jobs, like, in terms of playing these soldiers, especially some of the ones who I mentioned. Now, in terms of the film's plot, there's honestly not really, like, a plot for me to talk about, because the movie doesn't really have a full-on kind of narrative and stuff. Like, first off, like, we're kind of just seeing them in this environment and stuff. But then around halfway through the movie, this thing happens, some of the soldiers end up getting injured, and then they're kind of having to wait for a bunch of the other soldiers to show up. I do think they did very well with it. Like, the whole movie is kind of showing you, like, you know, like, this kind of living environment that these soldiers had to endure, like, during, like, this whole, time and stuff. But it's genuinely very interesting to watch. The movie is pretty much carried by, like, the cinematography, the sound department, and, like, in terms of how they're able to actually make a believable war environment, I think they do really well with it. But, like, it is compelling to watch, just seeing these soldiers trying to, like, help out each other, and just seeing, like, these harsh living environments that they have to endure. Like, even though it can be a bit hard to watch at times with the injured soldiers, like, coming out of this movie, you definitely do feel a lot of respect, like, for like, people who fought in this war, and who fought, like, in wars in general. Like, the movie's pretty much carried by all this, even if it doesn't have a full-on narrative, kind of showing you all this stuff happening that was experienced by real soldiers, you know. It is compelling to watch, and, like, there's not really, like, a clear full-on, you know, political message in this. Like, whether or not you actually want to sign up for the military after watching this movie is completely based off of your own kind of perception of it. But, yeah, I don't think this movie's intention really is to, you know, actually kind of inspire you to sign up for the war. You're really just having to see, like, what people like these soldiers have had to endure. But I thought they did really well with this in terms of, like, you know, actually showing it off and stuff. Like, overall, even though there wasn't a clear plot, they did very well with this. And yeah, leading into the narrative structure, because there's not really anything to talk about here exactly, because there's not a full-on narrative to the movie, but kind of really around halfway through the film when this thing happens, and, you know, these soldiers are like, how should I get things done, having to try and, like, tend to these wounded soldiers. Watching all this happen, it's compelling to watch, and, you know, throughout the whole movie you're waiting for, like, you know, when these other soldiers are gonna show up, and, like, you know, if they're actually gonna be able to make it out of there. Like, it is really interesting to watch, and again, it does make you feel a lot of respect for, like, people who have actually had to endure during war times and stuff. Despite there not being a clear narrative in the movie, they did very well in terms of, like, actually showing what was happening and making you compelled to watch it. Even though it does take a while to actually get to the war stuff, it's very compelling to watch nonetheless. So yeah, overall, Warfare is a really good movie. Another good one from Alex Garland, and also from Ray Mendoza in his directorial debut. It was definitely a really good movie, like very good cinematography, very good editing, very good sound design, some very solid acting, especially from the likes of Charles Melton, Joseph Quinn, and Cosmo Jarvis, and like, even if there's not really a full-on kind of plot to the movie, just showing you everything happening and kind of trying to get you to experience, like, what it was like for people like this having to endure during these times. It overall makes for a memorable experience. Like, I wouldn't recommend this movie to, like, pretty much everyone. Like, you might get a little bored, like, if the movie does kind of take its time actually getting to the war and stuff. And, like, if you're not, like, big into war movies, then maybe this won't be your cup of tea. But, like, if you do kind of just want to experience, like, everything going on, like, what these soldiers had to endure and, like, having to kind of watch this whole experience and stuff, I would definitely recommend the movie, like, if you'd be interested to check it out. And if you do like a good war movie, then the film is definitely worth a watch. So, overall, I really liked this movie. Everyone involved did a very good job with it. And I will just say a quick respect to anyone who actually did fight in the Iraq War, or pretty much any war. Just want to say thank you for your service, and movies like this definitely help us to respect a lot of these kind of people a lot more. So overall, a very good movie, and if you'd be interested to check it out, I would definitely recommend it. So with that, I'm going to give Warfare an 8 out of 10. So with that, I'll see you guys next time, and bye.